Hola y bienvenidos a la Hustle. Soy Enrique Byrnes y presidente de mejor cerveza. No Abate por No Filter Network. Miguelito San Dieguito not with us today. Will the Thrill Clark not with us this morning. But we come on here each and every single morning. With us or not with us, dead or alive, we're going to properly salute our boys who, well, I don't know, they just make life in this show, in this world go round, as do the rest of you. So we salute all of you. Yes, 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 yes. Woo! Remember this, folks. When we are juiceful, we are useful. And when we are juiceless, we are fucking useless. A very pleasant good morning to you on the 4th day of October, 2024. 10-4-24. Kind of a cool date. Anyhow, our daily hustle quote of the day comes courtesy of one Vince Lombardi. Individual commitment to a group effort. That is what makes a team work. And Vince drilled it. Look no further than last night. What a fun baseball game to watch, to be a part of. I imagine you had the Mets and the Brewers going to a game 3 in which the Mets fell behind 2-0 when Jake Bowers, the kid from Huntington Beach, ended up hitting a changeup out on his front foot, launches it into the upper deck in right field. Now, Bowers is a journeyman. Make no mistake about it. It's not like he's old or anything. I want to say he's in his late 20s. But he has found a home in Milwaukee. I think he had about like 14 homers on the season. And then Sal Frelick, the kid from Boston College, comes up after him. He goes bridge. Well, now the Mets find themselves down 2-0 going into the 9th inning. Their win probability going into that inning was just 7%. Well, if you look who was coming up, and this matters. You had Lindor, you had Nimmo, and then you had the great Pete Alonso. So Lindor gets on, Nimmo gets on. We had runners at first and third. Alonso gets to a 3-1 count, gets a changeup of all pitches, and ends up going Oppo Taco. 3-2 Mets at that point. So after that, now a couple thoughts immediately on the pitch selection. I get it. 3-1 count, hitters count. You assume the hitter's looking for a fastball. Well, Pete Alonso has been struggling. He was 5 for his past 41. He certainly did not look like himself. He was not catching up to fastballs. So when you decide to throw him a changeup in that situation, all you're going to do is speed his bat up. That's it. And sure enough, it ended up burning the Brewers. So afterwards, Jesse Winker comes up. He ends up getting hit by a pitch. I think it was the second of the game. He doesn't move. So by no means were the Brewers throwing at him, although they would love to throw at him because he's been a prick all series. But Winker's just like this with his body armor. Leans into it. Takes a long-ass time getting to first base. Steals second on the first pitch. His helmet comes off. The manager ends up coming out, Mendoza. And I don't know what was talked about, but he said something like that about the head. I don't know. But clearly, I don't think the dude was right in the head. Because then you had Starling Marte base hit to right field. Winker comes around and scores. Takes his helmet off. and fucking slams it into the ground as if he's spiking a football, and then walks back to the dugout. Alonso was there to greet him and the rest of the boys. He obviously was fired up. He'd been getting booed because of his antics a couple days earlier when he was talking shit going around the bases on what I believe was a triple. And there was just a whole lot of weird fuck yous in that triple. And I don't know exactly who he was talking to. I mean, obviously he was talking to the Brewers. And then he gets a third. He's like, fuck you, fuck them, fuck everybody. It was a little out of sorts. I feel like I need more background information as to why he was so emotionally charged. So I don't want to necessarily get too deep into it without having all the facts, the details, and everything. But it certainly brings up some rare moments to look back upon and think, was Alonso's homer the greatest homer in postseason history? He's the only one in the history of the game to hit a home run in the ninth inning or later, a game-winning home run, that is. And let me bear with me for a second. The only one in the history of the game to hit a home run in the ninth inning or later in which his team was trailing. So you've had all these iconic home runs that we could think about. I mean, this goes back to Bill Mazeroski. This goes to Joe Carter. This goes to Kirk Gibson. Well, in all these home runs, in these dramatic walk-offs that took place, none of the teams were actually down. Those were all tie games. So MLB.com put together a list of what are considered the greatest postseason home runs of all time. They have Pete Alonso's historic dinner here on the list. I'm not sure if they're ranked in order. Yordan Alvarez delivered the dramatic homer in the 2022 ALDS and World Series. Alvarez's 3-1 walk-off homer with the Astros trailing by 2 runs and down to their final out against the Mariners in Game 1 of the 2022 ALDS electrified Minute Maid Park and ignited Houston's run to a second World Series title. Okay. Again, to clarify, Alonso's never been done before. This was also in a winner-take-all. So that's why it certainly was so rare. And Sean Casey hit me up on the cell phone right now. Case, I look forward to having that conversation. I'll call him back as soon as the DH is over. And by the way, Casey and Chinch have been doing a terrific job with their podcast over, they're called The Mayor's Office. Just fucking download it. It's great. The mental performance nuggets that Casey delivers, along with his baseball knowledge, expertise, from a strategic standpoint to a mechanical standpoint. There's very few people I'd rather talk about the game of baseball than Sean Casey. So make sure you tune in to that. Bryce Harper's drive lifts Phillies in the Fall Classic. This is Game 5 of the 2022 NLCS against the Padres. You had Howie Kendrick's decisive blow in the 2019 World Series. Remember that off the right field foul pole. A.J. Hinch was on the wrong end of that one. Then the irony was that Parker Meadows hit that big one the other night. And A.J. was talking about the tail of 2 foul poles right there. Jose Bautista, the bat flip in the 2015 ALDS, ended up in the Blue Jays' favor, certainly dramatic. How about the Giants win the 2014 pennant behind Travis Ishikawa's homer to right field, though? It says, even though Bobby Thompson isn't a part of this list, the Giants win the pennant still makes a cameo thanks to Ishikawa, as well as announcer Joe Buck. How about Big Papi's moment turning a grand slam in a 2013 ALCS? I mean, geez, it just feels like Big Papi had so many of those moments. David Freese forces a Game 7, the 2011 World Series. That's got to be towards the top of the list. Maguila Ordonez sends the Tigers to the 2006 World Series. So that was a walk-off grand slam. There were no outs, though. Dramatic, yeah, sure was against the A's, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it swept the A's out of Detroit. I get it. But, look, I think there's something to be said when you're down, right? As opposed to when a game's tied and bases are juiced and there's no outs. It just doesn't quite have the same dramatics. How about Albert Pujols' 2005 NLCS liftoff in Houston? Sure, I remember that. Chris Burke, he clinched the 2005 NLDS with an 18th inning homer. Berkey, I'm putting that towards the top of my list. Aaron Boone continues the curse in the 2003 ALCS. That obviously needs to be up there. Derek Jeter becomes Mr. November in 2001 when he hit that walk-off in the World Series. Yeah. I mean, there were a few dramatic moments there. Blue Jays repeat as Joe Carter wins the 1993 World Series. I mean, a walk-off home run to win a World Series, if that's not towards the top of number one, I don't know what is. And then Kirby Puckett ends Game 6 of the 1991 World Series with a walk-off homer himself that forced the Game 7, in which I believe it was Jack Morris out dueling John Smoltz. And then Kirk Gibson had his iconic home run in the 1988 Fall Classic. I remember that like yesterday. That fist pump. I would put Gibby's towards the very top. How about Dave Henderson stunning the Angels in the 1986 ALCS? Dave Henderson also with one of the best pimp jobs ever in that one right there. And then the Cards fans go crazy for Ozzie Smith in the 85 NLCS. That was a great call by, I believe it was Jack Buck on the call. Reggie Jackson's 3-homer night in the 1977 World Series is up there. Did a whole video this morning on the 1977 ALCS. So I was 1 year old. Talked about this yesterday on the Daily Hustle. But I was one when this whole thing went down. That was George Brett sliding at third base and him and Craig Nettles going at it. What a fucking time, man. And this is after Hal McRae took out Willie Randolph, and then Craig Nettles the next game, that was Game 2, Craig Nettles the next game, blew up somebody at second base like I've never seen. I mean, these guys weren't even fucking around. I mean, they were running right into him, just, they looked like free safeties. It was nuts. So that was fun to do this morning. Chris Chambliss gets mobbed after winning the 1976 ALCS. That was against the Royals as well. Carlton Fisk waves it fair. 7. And a long drive. That's so good. Yeah, I certainly put that up there. That was the 1975 World Series. Bill Mazeroski wins it all for the 1960 Pirates. And then Babe Ruth called his shot in the 1932 World Series. So it says here, Bobby Thompson shot her around the world in 1951, and Bucky Dent's division-winning dinger versus the Red Sox in 1978 are not included here because those home runs occurred in what are considered regular season games. Okay. I mean, can we just do most dramatic homers of all time? I do see how and why they might have left that out, but that certainly was one of the more dramatic home runs I know that I've ever seen take place last night. Just figuring it's the winner take all. I mean, I know that feeling in the dugout. I've had it too many times before. Like, dude, we're going home. We're down 2-0 this ninth inning. It's like we're going to fight, do everything we can. But the real possibility, so you go from you're going home to, hey, we're going to Philadelphia. And what a fucking party they must have had last night. I don't know if they stayed in Milwaukee or they flew home after the game, but a really cool moment for the New York Mets. And you could see it in Mendoza, the manager. You can see it in Francisco Lindor. These guys just care. They're emotional. Lindor was almost. Oh no! Oh no! I heard a screeching noise that happened in my headphones, like. So, anyhow, it was a big moment last night. Gonna come back on later. If not, we'll do a Daily Hustle tomorrow morning, basically previewing all of the division matchups coming up. I wanted to go over the rankings of the World Series matchups, which is just fascinating. You rank them like 16 to 1. There's 16 different combos that we potentially could have. So let's see. Here, Joe, no audio. Oh, am I back now, Joe? That is the question. Hopefully I am. Anyhow, the final thing here that I wanted to get into, the Baltimore, Kansas City thing, and I wasn't really even thinking about it, but the Chiefs went into Baltimore last year and sent the Ravens home. I say sent them home, but kept them home. So there's been this outpouring of rage from Baltimore fans about Kansas City. It is pretty funny. It says it's been a bad year for Baltimore sports fans. The teams from Kansas City have had a lot to do with that. The Chiefs dashed the Ravens Super Bowl hopes in January with a 17-10 win in the AFC Championship game in Baltimore. And this week, the Orioles' season came to a crashing end at the hands of the Royals with 1-0-2 wins. The Royals swept the O's in Baltimore in the AL wildcard series. That's 3 one-score playoff losses at the hands of Kansas City. Teams all in Baltimore, and the fans have had enough. So here's some of the fans outpouring. Quote, I hate Kansas City, and I hope something awful happens to its football and baseball stadiums tonight. Quote, I'm not really over my teams playing against KC teams. It's not good for my relationship. Quote, I hate Kansas City in every sport. And then the Baltimore Orioles didn't do themselves any favors because before this series, they put the show's about to begin, hashtag be the noise, and then they showed this, and it said seats taken. Well, give kudos to the Kansas City Royals because they responded after the series was over. And it says, you come to the crown, you best not miss. Oh, and here we go. The seat is definitely taken. Bobby Witt Jr. Sitting on the throne. So we'll come back on, like I said, tomorrow. We'll go over all these different series. We'll break them down. We'll get you ready. It's starting as early as 10 a.m. Pacific time, so 1 p.m. And the matchups will be Detroit at Cleveland, and that's the 10:08 start. The 1:08 start is the New York Mets at the Philadelphia Phillies, and then it is the Kansas City Royals at the New York Yankees at 3:38 p.m. all on Saturday, with the San Diego Padres at the Los Angeles Dodgers, 5:38 p.m. Pacific time. For everybody saying the Padres should be favored, all this other bullshit, like, look, I like the Padres. Nice story. They did hold the advantage on LA during the regular season. They are not fucking favored in this series. No fucking way. I don't care what you say. I don't care what any book would say. Look, the Dodgers are the better baseball team, period. Now, the big question is the Dodgers starting pitching. Whether it's Flaherty or anybody else that they have, I think it's who we got, Yamamoto going in game one. That's fine. I get it. Yamamoto hasn't been the $350 million pitcher that you thought he was going to be. But the one strength of the Dodgers is their bullpen, and they have an advantage over the Padres for that. So, if it comes down to equal in pitching, and let's not forget, San Diego's depleted themselves, but if this comes down to bullpen versus bullpen, I like the Dodgers. If this comes down to offense versus offense, I still like the Dodgers. Does it mean I'm going to pick the Dodgers for the series? We'll find out tomorrow morning. I'll have all my picks for all the series, for the individual games as well. Everyone have a fantastic day. Joe, I appreciate the comms back and forth. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please do me a favor and leave a review, 5 stars if you're feeling generous. And, by the way, we're also presented by Bet Online, the number one online gambling destination. Go to Bet Online to get in on all the action. Football, basketball, baseball, you name it. If there is a sport, there is a line, and you can bet on it afterwards. Go to the online casino, the poker room, whatever the fuck you want to do just to keep on gambling. Everyone have a great day. See ya!